therefore, as people of faith, to advocate for a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. We are doing this in solidarity with many others all over the world who are also taking action and endorsing the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty through a faith letter that has been endorsed with over 500 faith institutions. Kenya will not be left behind. We are coming here to also issue this statement and also recommend to our Kenyan government to endorse this fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. The statement that I read has been endorsed with various faith leaders yesterday following an interfaith media briefing, and therefore I stand before you as a representative of the faith communities to issue the statement. I will read the statement. We have been granted a gift, an earth created in all its diversity, vitality, and abundance, for which we are called to be stewards. But this role of stewardship has been overshadowed by neglect, exploitation, and unsustainable consumption that threaten the natural balance, social harmony, and existence of life on Earth. Too many coal mines and oil and gas wells already under production, setting the world on a course to fail to meet the Paris Agreement's goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius. To avoid the worst impacts of the climate crisis, we must hold ourselves, we must hold our neighbors and our governments accountable and collectively act. For too long, government action has been painstakingly slow, catered too much to the reckless and deceptive fossil fuel corporations, preventing meaningful and timely climate legislation. There is a glaring disconnect between countries' approvals for continued fossil fuel expansion and their rhetoric proclaiming long-term net zero targets, a dangerous fail to evade responsibility, to delay action, and to rely on unproven technologies. The burning of coal, oil, and gas is responsible for 86% of carbon emissions in the past decade, according to the IPCC. Just 100 companies account for more than 70% of emissions. With these emissions also come the cost of local pollution, environmental degradation, and health effects associated with extracting, refining, transporting, and burning fossil fuels. The costs are disproportionately paid by those who are most vulnerable to and least historically responsible for the consequences of climate change. Lives are lost, homes, farms are destroyed, and millions of people have been displaced. It is our moral imperative to protect these most in need and to uphold the human rights of future generations by employing renewable sources of energy. The science surrounding the most urgent danger facing humanity is undeniable. To be good caretakers of our common home, we must act and phase out the production of fossil fuels. Several faith institutions across the world have already divested from fossil fuel companies, and now we take the next step in calling on governments to plan a global just transition. The current scale of the climate crisis requires a cooperative global solution that addresses the fossil fuel industry directly. We call on governments to urgently commence negotiations to develop and implement a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, laying out a binding global plan to 1. End expansion of any new coal, oil, and gas production in line with the best available science as outlined by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the United Nations Environment Programme. 2. To phase out existing production of fossil fuels in a manner that is fair and equitable, taking into account the respective dependency of countries on fossil fuels and their capacity to transition. 3. Ensure a global just transition to 100% access to renewable energy, supporting dependent economies to diversify away from fossil fuels and to enable all people, all communities, not least the global south, to flourish. We hail from many faiths and beliefs, but together we can remedy the decades of negligence to safeguard our coexistence on this earth. Just as our beliefs are entrenched with religious and spiritual teachings, we must respond to the climate crisis that is deeply rooted in a science and equity to heal the planet and people alike. We have a narrow window of opportunity to act, which is why we are joining the growing chorus of Indigenous peoples, civil society, leaders, youth, cities, lawmakers, academics, and scientists, calling for a global treaty to phase out fossil fuels and support a just transition powered by renewable energy and a sustainable future for all. Thank you.